Hi guys, Squall here. Welcome to episode 4 of my realistic playthrough on Derail Valley. If you remember, at the end of the last episode, we finished here in the machine factory. I unloaded the job that we brought in, which brought in a little bit of cash, another about 30k I think it was, so we're on 151k now. And you can see I've slept overnight, so it's currently early in the morning, it's 10 to 6. At 6 AM we should get a refresh on the weather, and we'll find out what the weather has in store for us. Now, one of the reasons that I came over to the machine factory was to go and buy a lovely piece of kit which is going to absolutely change the way we play this game now. Let's go and get it. Okay, here's the shop. As I've noticed before, all the shops are blue like this, and the machine factory has a lot of really cool gadgets in it. We'll be coming back here in the future to buy some of these lovely bits and pieces. I won't explain what they all do right now, but trust me, we're going to want to come back here. The one I'm interested in today is this one, the locomotive remote. Now this thing is an absolute game changer when it comes to operating the locomotive, particularly on the realistic difficulty that we're on, because we can't use the UI to sort of uncouple and couple, and we can't run very fast, so you know we can't allow a train to operate and then sprint after it. I'm going to buy this by clicking on it like that. That will then put it into the till, and that's going to cost us 20,000. That is money well spent. That goes into my slot 2, which I click the padlock just to lock it in here. This is my standard setup here. All my jobs then come into here, and this is our kind of vehicle reference which I bring in and out. That's my normal setup. Now, as I say, there are other things in here that we will want later on, notably the distance tracker, which will be brilliant when we get longer trains, and also things like the switch setter, which will be very useful. You can mount things inside locomotives in B99, in case you didn't know, and that's the whole point of this. But it's not something that we're going to do yet, because we're just driving around in a D2. When we get to the DH4, that's when we'll seriously think about mounting some equipment in it. Now, people say to me, if you mount equipment inside locomotives that you don't, in quotes, own, what happens? Well, the way the game treats it is the railroad company owns all the locomotives. If you mount things in a locomotive and then you don't use the locomotive for about 2 hours real time, it will despawn that locomotive, and anything that you fitted inside will appear back here in your shed. That's how it works. Later on, when we actually salvage the locomotives around the map, they will belong to us, and we will then be able to mount things in there with impunity. There won't be anything bad that's going to happen to them. Now, the weather forecast is not looking great. It's gone 6 AM, so it's just refreshed. You can see it's going to be quite misty and then rainy at 12 o'clock, so ideally we want to get any work done before midday if possible. Now, looking at the job market, it generated some stuff here to do with the logistic. These are the cars that we brought in that then got emptied, and then there's a logistic job to move them around. Not really interested in that one. What I am interested in is this job here. This is $47,000 to go to City South. That's from here to here. Sorry, City South. From here to here. City South is on the way down to Harbour. Definitely worth taking that one. That's going to be my first pick. So then the question is, well, if we're going to City South, we're going to be going through City West. We're going to go through the Oil Well Central and then the farm. Then we're going to climb up through CMS, which is Coal Mine South, and into City South. So what do we want to take on the way? We could even take something to the harbour if we wanted to. The answer is, well, there is one here for the steel mill, which goes into A6I at the steel mill. The steel mill is here. Now, the problem with it is we come down here and we drive forward into the steel mill and we drop that load off. We're then facing the wrong direction. However, there is a triangle here, so you can actually reverse back and then drive that way. The downside is when you drive that curve, it's a very sharp climb, that one. And it can be a bit problematic, so you don't want to have too much heavy stuff when you make that climb around the corner there. But it's doable. So given the amount of money that we're going to get from this job, I think it's worth taking that one as well. And if we have a quick look at the steel mill, A6 what was it, A6I or something? The job, 1 second, A6I it wants to be dropped into. Now, A6I is a little bit of a pain because ordinarily we'd come into B and make the drop, and then we can pull forward and reverse and be on our way. With this one, we have to pull all the way through here and then reverse it back into 6I and then go back out and then reverse into the triangle. So it's a little bit of a pain, that one. And that's the advantage of this particular mod, is it actually tells us where it's going to go so we can make that decision. For £16,000, it is touch and go as to whether it's worth doing that one. There is another job up here to prepare a train down to the harbour, but considering that's going to have nothing special inside of it, I don't think it's going to pay super, super well. So our main payer is this one. It really is just a case of, do we want to take this one as well? And I think on balance, we will. I think we'll take it because it allows me to show you the shunter in the remote control and operation big time. So let's do that. We'll get these jobs set up. What I've done is I've reversed the 2 locomotives. That's the military base there. And the reason I've put them there is quite simpler because at the machine factory, what I did when I dropped all this stuff off and unloaded it, I pulled forward and then I reversed back to the military yard here. And you'll notice that the track diverges left and right just there. It's actually a short space. It's not as big as it looks on the map. In fact, the switch point is right there. So until we get the military license, at which point we can go in there, we only have this space here, which is just about big enough for 2 DE2s. And that allows us effectively to turn around here. We reversed in and we're going out that way. So that's got us facing the right way. So what I'm going to do is drive forward and go and get these things connected up. Right, slight change of plan. I've hooked up the cars onto the back of the train, no problem at all. And then I spotted something. This one requires a long 1 license, which if you look on our license list is train length 1, which we don't currently own. We could get it, but it'll put our copay up even more. And frankly, I was already wondering whether to take this one or not. So on balance, we'll just take this one. So we'll hand that job in there. Verify that we picked up the cars from B4. Oh, there should be 5 of them. And we're taking it to B1I down at City South. Now, what I will do is I will drive from Machine Factory and we'll go as planned down to the steel mill. But what I'll do is I'll drive the train up the hill there, and then I'll quickly run into the steel mill to see if there's anything here that we want to take. There's often jobs from the steel mill down to the harbour. And if there is, we can take them. They'll normally be quite heavy, though, because they'll be steel. So both locomotives should be able to haul up that hill. But we'll see if there's like a smallish job there. And if there is, we can then go to City South and then carry on into harbour and make more drops. And that will basically, instead of getting paid to go from here to here, we'll get paid to go from here to here and here to here, which is just a slight deviation to our route. So it's definitely worth doing if we can find a job. So let's jump into the cab, get going, and get down to the steel mill and see what we've got. Now, as ever, once the train is moving, it's worth getting our routing correct. We're coming from the machine factory. We're going to go down to City West, so we want to keep right. Remember, we're coming from the top, so we want to keep right. We're going to get into City West and keep left. We're then going to keep left as we head towards the farm, keep right into Orwell Central and the farm. And then when we get to the steel mill, we're going to turn right and go up this hill. And then we should be trying to reverse back down into steel mill. So next thing to check is the City West is set up as we want it to be. City West, we're going to be coming from this direction, so we want to keep left through here. And then that's a merge, that's a merge. Then we'll go through Orwell Central will be the next one, which will be a right turn and then a right left straight through to the farm. Same thing at the farm. We're going to go keep left into B and then right and left through B. And then the steel mill should, in theory, we will be arriving over here at the steel mill and then reversing back into B. We don't know where we're going to go into B yet because we don't know what the job's going to be. But just having that set up for the centre is not a bad plan. The worst thing is, you know, if it was set up for some other track and we reversed in and hit something. So that should be us set. The big thing that's The big problem that we face, really, is going to be the weather. And this is the problem with Derail Valley. We know that there's going to be some rain coming at 12-ish. And rain substantially reduces the friction on the track. Now, if we try and take a job out of the steel mill and haul it out of the steel mill up this gradient here, in the dry it might not be a problem, in the wet it will be, I don't know, it could be impossible for these two D2s, let's put it that way. It depends on the whole weight of the consist. Right now, we've got 225 tons on this. The steel jobs are going to be 300. So that's going to be a combined mass of about 600 tons on the train, which might be okay in the dry. In the wet, forget it. So I personally think what's going to happen is we'll get to the steel mill and it'll start raining. And at that point, we may not be able to take another job. That's Derail Valley. Weather comes and goes. The weather forecast is not massively accurate, but it does have a big effect on your life. We'll see how we get on. You can see the mist is rolling in as predicted on the weather forecast. I turned this engine off halfway and I'm just remote operating the second locomotive now because we were getting down to 50% fuel, and I thought I want to make sure we've got enough fuel for this hill if we need it. So this is the right turn. The steel mill is just there. And what I'm going to do is get it round this corner. This is quite a turning steep climb, this one. 3.3%. Absolutely ridiculous, this corner. It should be illegal. It shouldn't be in the game. But it's in the game. They did actually make this triangle bigger. It used to be a lot smaller than this. There we go. You can see it's even struggling just to get around this corner. The friction and the hill is so strong around here. We even need to get the power on just to get it around. I want to get the back end clear of this junction, and then I want to, I'll just let the train roll back, and we'll quickly run down to the station and see what we're dealing with. I'm going to jump out here. Stand on this little hill. I'll let it roll back because I don't want to hill start on this hill anyway. At the moment, it's not raining. It's probably like an hour or two away from raining, which suits me just fine. Right, I'm going to flick that so it's the other way. We'll put the train brake on. And then I'll turn it off and the train will just do its thing. It'll start rolling backwards this way because it's on an incline, and we'll get down to the station. Here we are, station office. Let's see what we've got. We're looking for something down to the harbour that we can haul. There's one. That's small enough. That's a long 2 license. That's a long 2 license. That's a long 1 license. And they're all shunting jobs. There is this one coming out of steel mill. Deliver it. It's coming out of B10. So if we... Where's B10 here? So if we right turn all the way down to B10... pick that up, and we'll tell the job engine we're going to have it, and we'll basically roll back. D4I is where it's going. I think it's this one here, so let's just put the train into reverse. It's coming down at 32 kilometers per hour, so we just need to be careful. Here it comes already, look. Perfect timing. So yeah, if we'd have messed around in there too long, we'd have missed those junction changes. I better get this slowed down. It's coming in at a rate of knots. Yeah, that was pretty close. Any longer than that, and there would have been a bit of a crash. And also, I probably only just got to those switches in time. But you know, it's all good. FH53 should be that one there. Yeah, car 176. Look at that. Absolutely bang on. Cool. So we got ourselves an extra job for very little effort. Now, the weight of this thing is 225 tons on the cars and 228 tons. That's 500 tons. We're going to need both locomotives to get this up here, which is not a problem. So what we'll do is we shall make sure this is in neutral. We'll start this up. And what I'm going to do is put this in forward. I'm going to use this remote to control the rear locomotive. And when I put the remote down, we'll be driving this locomotive. That way we don't have to keep running between the two. It's a quite useful thing to do. So if I put the remote up, put a bit of power down. See, we've got wheel slip. So we'll put a bit of power on this one. This is where we have to get a little bit clever. But what we're looking for is to get our speed up as much as possible before we hit that slope. You can use sand if you want to pick up speed. There it is, slipping. Interesting how the second one's slipping and this one isn't. Okay, there we go. Just keep putting the power down as much as we can. Momentum is absolutely king when we're going up these slopes. Now the only downside is we can't read the dials in the rear locomotive, but we can take a guess that it's probably something similar to these. Okay, switch is set to go left up the hill. We're going to go maximum now. That's full beans right there. And then we just got to keep our eye on the temps. So the traction motor temp is here. Tachometer showing the RPM is there. And the ammeter is here. There's no danger of that going in red. This is the culprit. But we'll see how we get on. There should be enough power to get this whole thing. You know, for two DE2s, it's doing pretty well. But this is the advantage of taking the concurrent thing. And because I didn't get the multiple unit license, we've managed to keep our co-pay down a little bit. I don't want to get the MU license until we really need it. My next step from two DE2s is going to be either like a DM3, or we could go for the steam drain, the SO60, or we could go straight to the DH4. Normally, I'd go straight to a DH4 because that is an absolute beast of a locomotive. But we'll see. We'll see what spawns. Anyway, keep an eye on the temps here. They look absolutely fine so far, but we're about to hit that incline. So we've managed to get ourselves, what, 35 kilometers per hour, which is not amazing. It's okay. But you're going to watch these motors starting to rise in temp as we hit this slope now. Yeah, here we go. So you see the temps starting to climb? They're really starting to work now. So we've just got to manage the temps. What will happen is when it hits yellow, the little light will come on. You'll hear a buzz. Same thing will happen here. The little light down here will come on. That's our first warning. It's not a problem to run it in the yellow. Once it goes to red, you'll start to see a bit of smoke coming out the front. At that point, you're starting to cause a little bit of damage. You can normally get about maximum halfway through that red bar before this traction motor breaker there will just trip. But it looks like we're okay. So what we need to do is just make sure that we're en route to the destination. We're climbing up here. We're coming up this branch now. We need to keep left. Sorry, no, we need to keep right at the top because we're going to go... No, we're going to go left. We're going to go left at the top. We're going to go through CMS. So we take a left here. Then we're going to keep left here. And then we're going to turn right here. That will bring us through into CMS. We're going to take a left. And this is upside down because we're coming from the north. Left through into CS. And that's going to be our first drop. So we just need to check CMS and make sure that's okay. Coal Mine South, we want to go straight through it. Coal Mine South, we're going to be coming in from the north, which is this side. The best way through here is through the loading bay, so we're going to keep left, and then we'll turn right, straight through that loading bay, and that'll bring us out the other side. And then finally, our drop zone is City South, and our first drop is the cars in City South. Now obviously we've got the steel on the back, which is not ideal, so we might have to just drop it before we get to the drop-off point for this, because we'll have to reverse back and pick it up. It's not an ideal layout because we've effectively got our first drop behind us and not at the back of the train. So we're going to do some work, but it's still absolutely fine. City South drop is B1I. So if we have a quick look at this, let me just bring the throttle back a touch now. What did I say? B1I. So with this, we want to keep left. That'll bring us through the platform here into B. And then B1I is here. So there'll be a left turn into B1I coming in from the west side. What we'll do is we'll leave our steel cars here, and then we'll pull forward into there, drop the cars off, pull forward and reverse back and collect the rest of our cargo, hand the job in. So it's not the end of the world. It's absolutely fine. And in terms of the steel wants to go to D4I, so we'll sort that out shortly, but for now we'll just back it off a little bit. What we could probably do now is turn off this locomotive, but I'll leave it on for now because I think there might be a climb. We're making a right turn into CMS now, I think. And I think there might be a little bit of a climb coming up here, so I'll leave both locomotives turned on while we make this climb up. So this is CMS, or Coal Mound South as it's called. The mist is really starting to roll in now, so it's making things visibility pretty bad. I'm just going to slow down because we're going to be going through the yard. 50 should be okay. Like I said, we've geared ourselves up to go through loading bay, which is 2L. Loading bays are always empty. This was added about, what, 6 months ago, I think it was, this particular place. Never used to exist in Derail Valley. It was added as a second coal mine. Until this one, the only coal mine that existed was CME, or Coal Mine East, which is up here. The Coal Mine South was added later along with the power plant. So in theory, you can move coal from here to here. Right, this is the loading bay. So we now know where we are. We're here at CMS. And according to our little plan, after CMS, we'll be taking a left into City South. I've backed this throttle off completely on this one. It's relatively flat now. It's just idling, so we should have enough fuel left. Once we drop the cars off, we'll be down to just the steel. And then it's downhill into the harbour anyway. Here we are. We are now approaching City South. The cities are endpoints for products in this game. So, like, that's why we're bringing cars here, because they're bought by the cities. That's how the industry works. They are an endpoint. Now, this is the passenger station, and we want to be stopping just before we start switch there. That's going to take us into 1I, which is our drop-off point, but we need to drop these rear cars first. Just detach them and then we'll pull forward. Currently, the passenger stations are not used in Derail Valley. There are no passenger services currently. They are kind of on the roadmap, but don't realistically expect to see them for probably a couple of years, I don't think. Yeah, there's actually a water tower here, so if we do steam services, then you can get some water on the way through City South, which is quite nice. And the station is, if I remember... where's the station? I thought it was here. There it is. There's the station back there. Right, so yeah, there's 1I. That's our drop. So I'm just going to put the brakes on here. And we'll jump out. Oh, those brakes are glowing red. Those brakes are glowing red. That's because the handbrake is on. It looks like we've just hauled this with the handbrake on. That's interesting. That's going to cause some interesting wear to the car. Not that it's going to massively affect us because of our copay, but that is definitely a mistake on my part. You can see they are glowing red hot with the friction of... It's just that car. Just that car's had the handbrake on. Vehicle's still at 100%, but what's really interesting about that is we've managed to haul all of this up a hill with a handbrake on. You can see it's starting to cool off now. Blimey, there was nothing left of those brake shoes. Oh well, mistakes were made. This is what happens in Derail Valley. Mistakes get made. You live and you learn. And it doesn't matter how much you play this game, you can still easily make a mistake like that. On realistic difficulty, it doesn't warn you if a handbrake is on. That's the thing. On the other difficulty levels, it will flash and indicate that there's a handbrake somewhere along the train, but on realistic, no such thing. Okay, right, so if I jump down here, first thing we'll do is put the handbrake on that one. And we will detach these cars, like so. And we're just going to jump in the front one, I think, and just turn that engine off. I don't think we need to have that one on. Just have the rear one. Oops, there we go, bit of wheel spin. So I just want to get it down there to that junction. While it's doing that, we'll start heading this way. This is the advantage of a remote. Especially on realistic difficulty when we can't walk very far. Or rather, teleport very far. It'll save us a bit of time. Now we're basically looking for it to clear these junctions here. Funnily enough, you can actually see... Well, you should be able to see them highlighted. Do you see that? So that was the thunk of the first one. Guessing that should be far enough. So what we'll do now is we'll switch that one. Sorry, leave that one as it is and switch that one so it then goes back this way. So if we judged it right... Okay, I think I may have fused the traction motor because I think I've started to move it while it was still rolling the other way. So if you're rolling forwards and you start to put the throttle in reverse gear, or vice versa, it will often trip the traction motor fuse. I think that may be what I just did. Yep, there you go, see that? So we click that on. That was my driver error, just trying to rush, more haste, less speed and all that. So interestingly, while we're here, that there is the museum. And when we recover locomotives later in the series, this is where we bring them. We basically bring them into here. Then we go and get the parts for them. We bring the parts down here, and then we basically repair them. It costs quite a lot of money to do that, so it's only something that we'll be doing much later on in the series. But it is more of an end-game thing that was added recently, and it is a lot of fun. The problem is you have to find the locomotives first, and that's half the battle. You also need to have a license to actually operate that locomotive before you can even recover it. So even if you do see, for example, a D6, you can't recover it unless you have a license to drive one. Which I think is a little bit harsh. I can understand not repairing it, but recovering it, to me, doesn't feel like it's doing any harm if you recover it whenever you feel like. But that's the rules. Okay, that's a bit nicely done, isn't it? Right, let's get that done there, let's get that on there, let's get them on there. And this time, we'll not forget to turn the handbrake off on that car. Now, we need to hand the job in. This is our main job, so this is our big earner. So we should get paid handsomely for this one. And indeed, we get paid 71,000, so that is absolutely fantastic. They were fragile items, so, you know, it makes sense. Now, while we're here, I'll just have a very quick look. Yeah, there's a job there that would pay 22 grand plus bonus to unload those cars. So if he wasn't doing an onward job, we could do that, and that's another 30 grand in the bank. I was just looking to see if there was anything else that would take us down to the harbour, but there isn't, so we will get on our way. Now, the harbour job is going into D4I at the harbour. So first thing is, let's make sure we're en route to the harbour. So going from City South, we're going to right turn down to the harbour, and then we'll bring up the harbour map. The harbour really is one of the key parts of Derail Valley. A lot of jobs come here, a lot of jobs come out of here. It's a real hub. You will get used to it, but it'll take time because, as you can see, it has quite a lot of yards to get through. So we're coming in from the west, which is here, and we are heading for D4I. So D yard is actually this one here. Now, you don't want to be driving forward into D because it has a dead end. You can get away with it, probably could get away with it with two DE2s. Because when you've dropped the load off, you need to be able to drive forward and then reverse back up a track, but there's not a lot of room there. So standard procedure for D is to go into C and then reverse back out again down into D. So that's what we'll do for safety. So we're going to go left, we're going to come in from the west, keep left, and then we're going to keep left here, which is going to bring us along there. Then we're going to go right into C. When we come back out of C, we're then going to reverse, go right down to here, right into D yard. D yard is D4I, so if we go to D and set that up, we're going to be coming in from here. There's the dead end. So we want to keep left down to this here, then we want to keep right, then left. That's going to take us into D4I. That is now set up properly. The only thing we need to do is make sure when we drive into C, we're not going to hit anything. And the way to do that is to keep right on the way in, and you go into the loading bay, which is always empty. So, just to recap on that, we're going to drive into C and then reverse back out into D. Then we're going to run over to the station and hand the job in, and that will be that. This job was paying, how much was it? 15,000 plus a bonus. Yeah, you're probably looking about 22, 23, something around that mark. Definitely worth it. Our wallet is already up to 200,000, which sounds like a lot, but those licenses cost quite a lot of money, so you know, it does allow us to buy more locomotive license now and anything else. Now, the harbour's got a huge selection of jobs, quite usually has anyway. We also might want to change it up and get a different locomotive depending on what we're hauling. The problem with the harbour is that it has a steep slope coming down into it here. On Derail Valley map, this bit here, you see that triangle there? That is a 40-kilometre drop into the harbour, which you've got to maintain your braking going down into it. And when you're coming out of it, it's a bit of work. Let's put it that way. It's going to tax whatever is hauling your load. So we'll see. The harbour's a good place, exciting place to be. But let's get this one dropped off and see what our fortunes are. Okay, there's the harbour. A little bit misty on the on our first approach down into it. This is the 40-kilometre limit, so you need to sort of start your braking as you enter this, and then just what will happen is you'll make this turn at 40, and then as soon as you pass this point here, it's just a drop all the way down to the harbour. You've got to hold the braking at 40. If you've got something with a dynamic brake, then you can obviously use the dynamic brake coming down this slope. Sometimes you need dynamic and train brake just to hold it off at 40, but you'll see, look, the speed will pick up quite rapidly if you're not careful. And this is a 40 turn, so we'll just get some couple of stages of braking in, see how we get on. A little bit more, minus 1.7 gradient. There you go. So, I mean, quite a lot of braking, but we're holding it off. 42, you can hear the wheels starting to go now. So you can imagine when you're coming out of the harbour up here with this incline and the friction on the wheels, it is a lot of work. And if it's raining as well, it's an absolute nightmare. There you go. So you want to maintain your brakes until you get here. At this point, it starts to level out. So you can, depending on the length of your train, you can start to back the brakes off. Ours is only a very short train now. It's only there, but if the train's winding all the way back, that will still be coming down that hill, and it would still be pushing you. So you just got to gauge it. It's just an experience thing, really. So the harbour has a massive service centre here, and I can already see there's a blue DM3, there is a red DH4, and there is a green SO60, and there's an S282. So there's a good mix here. There's diesel mechanical, a diesel hydraulic, and 2 steams. There's a very, very good selection. So we've got a lot of choice over what we drive next out of here. Okay, so this is the C yard. We just need to make it past this switch here. So what we can do is just jump out here. You can see it's taking us right into that loading bay. Start getting the brake on now. It's not a very long train. There we go. So we just switch that, and then we're reversing back into D. So one of the cool things about the remote is you can just basically hitch a ride on the back of the train, and it just really helps. It's not so bad with a short train like this, but when your train is like 200, 300 meters long, like it really helps being able to stand on the back with the remote. That one there, that is E yard, as you can see on the map. So we're basically, we've come out of C, we're here at the moment. We're branching down towards D, but that is E. Very common input-output track over there, particularly for goods. You've got the F platform that way. You never really go that way because that's just passenger services and there aren't any. G yard is another common one. This is G just coming up on our left, behind this building here. That's G yard over there. And then this is D yard, so we'll just back off the throttle. And hopefully we set everything correctly. And we're looking for D4I, which on this yard is straight in. So right then left. We'll just jump off here. Lovely. Pop the handbrake on. Get everything disconnected. Otherwise it won't count. And we'll put the handbrake on the locomotive. Turn that one off. We'll leave the handbrake on that one. And go and hand the job in. There we go. Right. Station office is here. Hopefully that's all validated. And it is. $22,300. Absolutely splendid. Now, we do have insurance needs you to pay $5,000. Even if we was to get manual service and half that, that'd be 17 divided by 2, which is more than that. So, frankly, we may as well pay the fees. However, I won't pay them just yet because I want to decide what we're doing with our licenses. But I'll just show you straight away, this is what the harbour's like. There is no shortage of jobs. A lot of these we won't be able to do, like that one there is a long 2, forestry trailers. But lots of them we can. And given that we've got a big choice of locomotives in the yard over there, we've got a lot of options. The real downside right now is the weather forecast. If you look at the clock, 1:15, it was due to rain at 12, so you can see the forecast is wrong already, but that's not unusual. However, it is going to rain at some point, I would suspect, and that will wet the track. However, we've got a clear night, so it might be okay to do some assembly. Here we go. Speak of the devil. In comes the rain. We might be okay to do some assembly shunting around the yard, and then the rain disappears, and we head out at night. I don't know. I'll leave that for the next episode. Hope you enjoyed this one, guys. Give me a thumbs up if you did. Leave me comments. Let me know what you think about the series so far and anything you're not sure of. I'll try and answer your questions. Take care, guys. Happy training.